Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be revisiting an old friend named Ariel Scarcella. I just recently creeped on her channel. In the meantime, while I'm finding out the name of the video, I have a podcast called Outspoken with my girlfriend Shannon where we talk about longer form topics such as this, LGBTQ, stupid comedians, stupid people in general, all that great stuff. If you want to listen, it is available everywhere. The links will be in the description. Go take a listen if you'd like. Anyways, I found the title and it's called Here's What Happens When BPD Runs Rampant. Queer TikTok is Dangerous.
We do have a ton of work to do. Why do all of these people think alike, dress alike, look alike?
Did that just say LGBT damage control? Okay, and you know what, Ariel? Let's see what she has to say before I open my big, large mouth.
Well, socially, I spoke about this in a video a few weeks ago, but mentally, I think the answer is mental illness.
Socially, I spoke about this? How else would you speak about it? All right.
Borderline personality disorder being one of those issues, and we're going to talk about that today. Welcome to another psychological deep dive.
This is going to be really interesting because I'm very well educated about BPD. I know a lot of people with BPD. I've dated somebody with BPD. When I tell you she has no idea what she's talking about, sorry, I was sick with the flu. She has no idea what the fuck.
Now, one of the ways we are able to diagnose somebody with a mental illness, and this is therapists and doctors included, is by recognizing patterns that they have that are similar to others with that same mental illness. And now in saying that, I am not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, but I am very aware and have been studying these people from afar for a while and have noticed a few patterns. And I'm going to simply use those patterns to show you why I think a lot of these people do have borderline personality disorder.
Congratulations, but you are not a doctor, nor are you a therapist. So do you have the ability to diagnose somebody with a personality disorder? Probably not.
Which, for those of you who do not know, is a pervasive pattern of instability of interpersonal relationships, self-image, and affects and marked impulsivity. Borderline personality disorder is something that is usually there for years, right? Usually stemming from starting in childhood. The two main issues that we see quite frequently in this are instability and impulsivity.
So far, that makes sense. That's a bit of the premise of what borderline personality disorder is if you do not know.
Impulsivity, like, I don't know, rapid onset gender dysphoria, or doing absolutely no research on a political or social justice trend and hopping onto it just because it's popular at that moment.
Queer rights, trans rights.
Yeah, everyone who does that has BPD, according to Ariel. If you ever had gender dysphoria, rapid onset gender dysphoria, because that's a thing, or have attended a protest and were mad, you might have BPD. Go to the psychiatrist.
Impulsivity, on the other hand, is when people can't control their emotions or have intense changes in their emotions.
Why am I transphobic, huh? Why? No. Am I being transphobic? Why?
Shut up!
What? Oh, wow.
Answer my question.
Did we trigger you?
I hope you can go rot in hell, you f***ing white.
I would just like to say any normal person can also get really upset and retaliate or snap. Not just people with BPD or the people you're showing in these clips. Just because that person got upset or angry doesn't mean they have a personality disorder.
Instability, you know, like, I don't know, changing your gender by the change of the tides and the positions of the moon and the solar eclipse.
My labels, identities, pronouns vary day to day, minute to minute, based on how much I feel like explaining myself, how much I feel like confusing people, and how tired I am.
This might be a hot take, but instead of calling it non-binary, we should just start calling it nonsense because it makes a zero.
That's so funny. If you want to find these videos cringe, whatever. Also, I feel like that TikTok was kind of like a joke. That's just the vibe I got from it immediately when I picked it up. Also, just because you don't understand non-binary doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Gender is a spectrum. I don't know how many times I have to say that. Like, I'm going to say that until I'm 6 feet under. Gender is a spectrum. Gender is a spectrum. Gender is a spectrum.
As a community, they cannot even get behind a set definition on this label.
Not non-binary as in yeet the teat. Non-binary as in would sometimes like remove and set aside, and sometimes would like put back.
Instability in, relationships.
So what was the point of showing the other video? You addressed nothing about it. You just kind of shared what that person felt like, and who the hell cares? So do they have BPD? Ariel, this was a horribly put together video. You should fire yourself or your editor, either one or both. Delete your channel. Like, you just followed up by responding to that TikTok about instability in relationships. That TikTok had nothing to do with that at all.
I even posted a video about this on TikTok the other day, and that video was making fun of the current dating pool situation. Instability with family.
I have no contact with my family. All of them. Siblings, parents, cousins, everybody. I had to go through an intense dumpster full of guilt.
Regardless of what most of these people say about themselves, I honestly don't think they have a consistent understanding of who they are and what they're capable of.
Okay, so I'm not really sure what the last TikTok has to do with BPD, and I know that BPD is also a spectrum, but people who have BPD, you have to have 5 out of the 9 traits, and she names them later, so I don't have to name them now, but like a fear of abandonment is one of them. So I don't understand why you brought in, you're bringing in TikToks and then just not explaining anything about them.
In my bio, I have the pronouns they, them, unless a pink heart and then a blue heart. Purple for they, them, like non-binary, pink for girl and blue for boy, right? I'd like you all to use they, them for me unless I say otherwise, because for the most part, I always feel somewhere on the non-binary spectrum.
They are constantly searching for new words, new ideas, even people that they think will help them figure it all out. Funnily enough, except when they actually are given the tools to help themselves, they decide to call that a controlling technique. It's almost like these people just want to stay victims.
All right, and if you find that cringe, that's totally cool, okay? If you don't want to refer to someone as whatever, you don't have to do it. You don't know this person online, you don't know them. If that's how they feel. Where's the when are you going to start talking about BPD running rampant in the queer community? Because I'm not seeing it. These are just people who are saying, I go by they, them, and I'm gender fluid, and I cut my family off. Apparently those are the new DSM BPD symptoms, so.
One of the many ways that colonial mental health, wellness, self-help culture shows up in our society is through the framework of control, power, and domination. And the way that looks like is using verbiage like, we just need to be able to control our thoughts, our feelings, our mind, our bodies. This idea that you need to force yourself into a state of discomfort in order to regulate your emotions.
No, it is understanding that at its core, you are the only person that is in control of your emotions and control your responses to life situations.
I'm going to pause with that. You are not the only person who is in control of your emotions. Your environment and other people can control your emotions. What you've just gone through can control your emotions, so that's false. I'm not seeing what's wrong with this TikTok. If I am being stupid, please let me know.
We are trying to teach you to control yourself in a good way. Not all control is bad, right? You control your dating habits, you control your eating habits, don't you? And like any other mental illness, borderline personality disorder is a spectrum, right? It can be minute to the extreme.
Of course, we control our lives in the way in which we literally control them, but there are sometimes points where we can't control them. And I think it's a toxic thing to think that we should control everything and need to be able to control everything, because sometimes you can't. You are out of control.
I recently spoke to a therapist friend of mine who focuses specifically on queerness and transgenderness, not transsexualism, in regards to borderline personality disorder. And honestly, the results are quite shocking, but not surprising if you followed my channel for a while.
Transgenderness. Transgenderness.
There are 9 specific traits that you have to look out for according to psychologists. Number 1 is frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. This sounds an awful lot like the constant need for validation of whatever they need at that moment. Let's say for their gender, for their supposed disability, or just simply why life isn't working out the way they wanted to. Number 2 is a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. Honestly, this sounds an awful lot like going from love bombing to the left eating its own based on whatever rules they changed that day.
Okay. Oh my God. You had the first point right. And then I don't know why you made the second point political. You can go from love bombing or having a favorite person if you have BPD to completely devaluing them. And I'm not speaking for every BPD person. It's a spectrum, like I said. People, it's in all different ways. So I don't know what that has to do with the left, but okay. It seems like you're not right about that one.
Number 3, identity disturbance. Markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self. We spoke about that briefly in this video before we talked about instability. Maybe they changed their name, their hair, their gender, their sexuality, their pronouns. This is also a very big reason why these people are easily controllable. Again, they all look, dress, act, think, are alike because they don't know who they truly are.
I mean, yeah, they can be easily controllable, but I like how she brought up everything that had to do with LGBT instead of, other things that can change your self-image. I just wanted to show you this screenshot here. Unstable self-image or sense of self. People with BPD have a distorted or unclear self-image and often feel guilty or ashamed and see themselves as bad. They may also abruptly and dramatically change their self-image, shown by suddenly changing their goals, opinions, careers, or friends. They tend to also sabotage their own progress. For instance, they may fail a test on purpose, ruin relationships, or get fired from a job. Now, for my own reasons that I wrote was like literally dyeing your hair, cutting your hair, changing your clothing style, getting piercings, getting tattoos, doing whatever it is that you need to do. But she liked to list like all of the gender things because she's trying to like intertwine the two. Of course, both can exist at the same time, but that's not, you are incorrect.
A quick note from a therapist friend of mine. People with borderline personality disorder typically have identity confusion ranging from mild to extreme. The lack of a developed identity can make the idea of having a certain and stable identity very appealing, since identity is an anchor for stability in one's thoughts, behaviors, emotions, etc. People with borderline personality disorder are often very black and white thinkers like narcissists. Either you are with me or against me. That doesn't sound familiar at all.
Oh my, she's making this political. She's making a personality disorder political. Like, dude, you're so stupid. I went to therapy for a very long time because I dated somebody with extreme, like BPD, like deep BPD. It's just, they're not all alike. Oh my God, Ariel, if you could get any stupider, I would. If I had a nickel, if I had a penny.
They certainly need and lack ambiguity to decrease stress. Not to mention that people with BPD have unstable self-image and self-worth and are hypersensitive to invalidation. Also, doesn't sound familiar at all, does it? Invalidation related to identity is extra intense to those with BPD because it is perceived as an attack on their identity, which is a source of intense insecurity. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
On what? On what point does it make sense? That the triggered transgenders get upset when you do something? These have nothing to do with each other.
Number 4, impulsivity in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging. For example, spending a ton of money frivolously, being hypersexual and slutty, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating.
I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course I can't put the tray table down. I'm plus sizing on a plane. Of course I have to shimmy down the aisle sideways.
What the hell did the airline clip have to do with any of that? Like, did you just take binge eating and then that TikTok where she says she can't fit on a regular plane seat and run with it and then claim that she has BPD because of it?
I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I have realized that a lot of people that probably have BPD are, in fact, highly sexual.
Even though I'm covered and my body's covered because there's a little bit of titties showing, y'all feel just comfortable misgendering me so much.
Number 5.
I don't even know what that meant. Like, were you showing that someone who showed themselves sexually is now regretting it?
Number 5, recurring suicidal behavior, gestures, or threats, or self-mutilating behavior. Number 6, affective instability due to a marked reactivity of mood. The 2 videos that you just watched that were side by side were literally posted by the same person in the same day. Here's another note from my therapist friend. Mild to extreme dissociation from one's physical body, more likely those with BPD, depending on whether they are raised with attuned, example, aware of childhood emotions and needs, or abusive parents. Dissociation can lead to a feeling of disconnecting from one's body, which can also be very disturbing. This makes confusion about or even distributed attributes towards one's body very easy.
That can happen with BPD. That can also happen with a bunch of other personality disorders or mental disorders, or even without those. That can happen to someone who's just totally doesn't have anything going on up there. All right, Dr. Psychiatrist Scary Sella.
Number 7. Chronic feelings of emptiness. People with borderline personality disorder tend to have hatred or simply panic when around those who are not validating their identity. And in my opinion, it's very likely because there is actually no real base of truth to it. It is built on lies, whether it's lies that they tell themselves or lies that society tells them. Listen to what this trans man said about having both gender dysphoria and borderline personality disorder.
I think borderline is primarily about identity and feeling safe. A lot of my behaviors were like avoidant behavior and isolating and searching for identity, searching for sort of healthy ego. With the gender stuff, I finally was enacting who I was on the inside.
Can I have some sort of feedback on any of the clips that you're showing? I just saw like 10 seconds of it. I can't. Yeah, it's a spectrum. It can be towards yourself or towards others. 2 + 2. It's not that fucking hard.
Projection is also extremely common in those that suffer with BPD. And they are likely to project that hatred onto others.
I also don't like how she's painting BPD people in this light, and just the way that she worded the projection sentence, because a lot of people have it towards themselves as well, and they're not going to sit there and kind of be like, you're disgusting and all this, blah, 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 blah. Granted, yes, that'll happen sometimes. But like I said, for the millionth time, it's a spectrum.
Tired of white cis women being more dedicated to being called a healer than actually doing the work to be a healer. The only thing that you're worried about healing is your bruised ego and being confronted with your complacency in genocide and your obsession with upholding privilege. We do not need more nice white women. Are you kidding me? And stop asking marginalized people to do the work for you because you don't feel comfortable with it.
I'm praying because we need you. We need something down here because this is just ridiculous. Hating white women is a projection. This person is said thing. These people hate having their identities invalidated and then project that hatred onto others.
No, that person doesn't have I have no idea what the context of this is, but that one sign of projection. Guess what? Guess what you have? Take a shot every time I say it. This shit is so, I can't even say it. This shit is so stupid. You're aware that people without personality disorders can project. Did you know that? Is that a new fact that you're learning?
Number 8, inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. Example, frequent displays of temper, constant anger, reoccurrent physical fights. People with borderline personality disorder usually have a lot of anger and are looking for a justified way to express it or to release it. For queer people, it might be the projection of, you hate trans people, you hate queer people, you want us dead. And then they go out and tear up a center that's meant for, biological women only. For Black Lives Matter people, it might be burning down an entire city.
Yeah, because all of those people have BPD. You are insanely uneducated about this personality disorder that it blows my mind. Don't ever speak about anything like this ever again.
When somebody with BPD has an identity which they are trying to be so sure of, threatened, it feels like a profound threat to their stability. Some may leave the realm of rational and become briefly psychotic. People with BPD are already typically oppositional and defiant of others, so this opposition combined with the gaping and fearsome emptiness of having no identity, which is invalidation, tends to promote a vicious response, especially when such a response is sanctioned by their community. I suspect this is why we are seeing such a terrorist-like response from certain trans people, such as stabbed transphobes or some other call to violence.
Okay, so your therapist friend fucking sucks ass. That ending sentence, just absolutely hated that last sentence. So I think this entire thing that was sent to Ariel was definitely very biased. You know, a trans person lashing out because they're invalidated or upset or angry because they're not being accepted or their rights are taken away does not mean that they have personality disorder.
Number 9, transient or stress-related paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms. Here's what my friend said. People with borderline personality disorder have little to no internal organization due to lack of internal stabilizing features like identity. So, they are so attracted to cults and other external sources that assign an identity and their structure, predictability, and stability.
I don't know. I'm going to say this anecdotally. I wouldn't say cults. I would say people. They're more drawn to people or a specific person or a group of friends, not cults. I mean, maybe, but the LGBT isn't a cult because I'm assuming that's what they're referring to.
People with BPD tend to experience dissociation and quite easily. They are also able to experience psychosis, which is not reality, far more easily than the average person due to some complicated psychological mechanisms. Dissociation and even mild psychosis is a recipe for being able to hold very strange beliefs about oneself. And this is his final note. People with BPD are very likely to get their stability from external sources, such as those who they associate with, right? Their group of friends, their echo chamber. Borderline individuals are also highly suggestible and very easily able to be influenced, especially by those who they idolize. Hello, Jeffrey Marsh. They tend to dissolve into the identity of those around them. Hence, why do they all look like this?
Up until yesterday, I worked at Blunt Pretzels.
What do you mean? What? Trans people or BPD people? Yeah, people with BPD can be easily influenced or absorb the personality traits or the person that they're, or we'll use favorite person, right? And take on a lot of their traits or interests or something like that to feel some sort of validation, to validate the emptiness within them. And it's a spectrum. I'm trying to just be wary that it's a spectrum. Not everybody does this, but Ariel keeps saying everybody does this, and then she shows a trans person who does one thing that a person without a fucking personality can do, and then puts the two together. That's not how it works.
I asked the general manager to stand up for trans rights and against our genocide, and he laughed in my face. The owner, his father is a Nazi. His son is the general manager.
And that is the end of this psychological deep dive. Let me know what you guys think.
Where's the rest of the clip? You suck. I know not a lot of people have seen this video, but the misinformation about BPD was absolutely fucking bewildering. Equating that to the TikToks that were shown have no correlation. Maybe educate yourself a little bit more. Just because somebody is screaming at another person or snapping or doesn't have a sense of identity does not mean that they have the personality disorder. I love you all. I will see you next week with a new video. And if you want to check out my podcast, again, it is called Outspoken. The link will be in the description. You can listen to it everywhere. You listen to your podcasts. Sorry, I'm tired. And after watching that, I got even more brain rot. So I'll see you next week. Peace.